Hey everybody, I was going to make this a 15-minute video, but there's a little bit of material in here, and so I thought I would just go ahead and take my time and go through this. I've been meaning to make a video about sun gazing, and this guy HRM, he's the guy that's been famous that they apparently tested at universities and that has gone 12 years without eating. And not that that is the real thing that we need to get out of sun gazing. What's important to get out of sun gazing would be the other health benefits as well. Of course, if you can go without eating, then that's obviously pretty good as well, especially considering today's food sources such as Monsanto and things like that. So I'm not by any means advocating that we stop eating unless that's what you want to do for your own reasons. The point of this video is to determine whether we believe sun gazing is real or not. After he published his results from the universities, there's been a lot of controversy about whether these studies are real or not, and personally I believe that they are. But let's use just a little bit of logic here for just a second. You're not going to find any kind of a established medical research center that's ever going to tell you that you're going to get these wonderful benefits out of staring at the sun, which is free, it doesn't cost any money, and apparently from all of the benefits that it gives you, it would not make good business sense from the pharmaceutical industry to ever tell anybody that they can cure things and that they can increase their health and that they won't have to buy as much food. You can see how all of this is totally contradictory to commerce and people buying things, right? They don't want you to be healthy. What they want you to be is they want you to be somebody who goes through life and is a constant patient taking medications from the pharmaceutical industry, and that's the reason why you see the FDA crack down on the most ridiculous things in the world and call them drugs. Well, this is one thing that the FDA cannot crack down on and call a drug, and that is the sun, because the sun is free to everybody. So just thinking about business and thinking about the way that things are right now, the way the FDA is run, the way these crazies out there are in the pharmaceutical industry, just like they're never going to find a real cure for cancer, it doesn't make good business sense. The only way it's going to happen is people like us doing it for ourselves. Okay? They don't want to cure you. So all that being said, it is not logical to assume that you're ever going to find a published article by some medical industry, some people in the medical industry, that's going to tell you that sun gazing is highly beneficial to your health. And I've looked at a few of these, and of course they all have their controversial subjects about it. So bottom line is, what else can we do to determine whether or not this is the real deal or not? In my research, I have determined that I think it is, and I think one of the benefits of it is I think it opens up your pineal glands. A lot of people are asking about their pineal glands right now. There's all this kind of meditation going on, trying to eat right. Well, if you imagine this, people are talking about don't do this and don't intake this and don't intake that because it calcifies your pineal gland. Well, if the outcome of this thing, let's just say, for example, that you didn't have to eat anymore, well, then you wouldn't have to worry about intaking any of those crazy foods and stuff like that. Of course, you'd still have to worry about brushing with fluoride and drinking water that has fluoride in it, if that actually does indeed calcify your pineal gland. I haven't done the research to really determine that. I think this staring at the sun actually does it. And the reason I believe that it does it is because when you take a look at the law of correspondence in the Kabbalion, you're always going to see an as above, so below, as below, so above principle. So if we need to reach higher consciousness, and higher consciousness, as we're going to see in this video, has to do with the sun, then there is a law of correspondence that I believe could be applied here. And we're going to see as time goes on. So let me just jump into this real quick. I found this excellent religious sun-gazing site. The reason it has religious in front of that is because what we're going to see here is history. And this is where I'm grabbing a lot of my information from. Since we're never going to see anything from the medical industry, what we kind of have to do is we're going to have to kind of take a look at seeing if we can decipher what these people have known a long, long time ago, and maybe take a look at a different perspective of the way that it's interpreted. There's been a lot of bad-mouthing about the sun and sun worship and all this kind of stuff, and I believe that it's been misinterpreted. I believe that the true meaning is not sun worship, but I believe that it means sun knowledge. I believe that the sun gives us certain kinds of energy, and I believe it also gives us consciousness as well. And if you go back into history, as far as you go back, you'll find that people not worship the sun. They actually, well, let's just get into it just a little bit. For example, the first one we see here is the god Shamash, and he's mentioned in the story of Gilgamesh, okay, in Tablet 10. Now, I didn't just read this one site. What I went out and did was I actually looked for myself. So I went in and took a look at what it actually says inside the story of Gilgamesh. If no one's ever read it, it's a very good story about a friend who loses his other friend in battle, that dies, and he gets upset, and it's just he walks around for years, doesn't know what to do. He finally comes to this lady, and she's asking him why he looks so horrible. It's because he had lost his friend, and so he wants to reach this this person, or this god Utnapishtim, okay, and he wants to know how to get there. And so we see in the story of Gilgamesh, he says, "Where do I look for signs? Show me direction, please help. Let me have safe passage over the seas. Give me advice to guide me on my way." Now this is a really interesting thing. She said to him, swiftly reply, "No man has ever gone that way and lived to say he crossed the sea. Shamash only ventures that, because Shamash would dare to stare into the sun." So one could interpret that as, by staring into the sun, Shamash was able to use the sun as a food source in order to cross the seas. And I think it's very possible that this is what's being talked about here. So when we go back here, it says in 307, it says that there is no one else who can see what Shamash only sees when that Shamash can only see within the sun. Okay, so now let's apply the law of correspondence, and what I believe is what's being said here is the sun between your temples. Let's take a look at something real quick. I've shown you this a while back. This shows Yahweh, which is the sun, in the middle of the two angels sitting on the Ark of the Covenant, and this also corresponds to the center part of your brain. See the sun? The sun right here, this is taken from an old church, I believe in the 1500s right here. And I believe this has to do with the center of your brain. So when it says Shamash can only see Shamash only can see within the sun, I believe that she's talking about the ability to be able to use your pineal gland or your third eye. And that's what's going on here. Now, let's take a look at Yahweh real quick, because I gathered pictures from around the world, and what do we see about Yahweh? Well, Yahweh is a sun, okay? You can see this through art throughout the history. So don't listen to what they interpret to you in the Bible, these churches. This is the reason I like art, okay? Because art tells so much information that you'll never get. So here's Yahweh, it's a sun, okay? Here it is again. Just flipping through some art here for you so you can see it all. The triangle, by the way, in case anybody doesn't know, represents God, represents heaven. And as I showed you before, and look at this, here's the lamb, okay? And as I've showed you before, see, look, he's pointing to the sun. Now look at the way he's pointing right here. Let me just show you something really quickly. And this is Salvador Dali, Last Supper, pointing the same direction, pointing to the sun. So the Holy Grail that we see in these pictures, and this is old church art right here, it talks about in the Book of the Dead, also the Egyptian Book of the Dead, it talks about cakes and ale. And look what we have right here. We have the sun shining on somebody This is ale, okay, which has been interpreted before as we have cakes, which is, one of them is intelligence and one of them is love, and it comes from the sun. And so here's some Orion cups, but okay. This is old Pentecost art. What I want you to notice about these people is that they have flames on their head and they're illuminated. What HRM, this guy right here, actually goes into in his presentations, in his presentation here, is that once you do this for about 9 months, apparently after that you're considered like it's almost like a solar charged battery, and you're charged up at that point and you don't need to do it anymore. It's like your battery is charged. And I believe that's what's going on with these people. It's like their batteries are charged now. And what you can see in this art is that, and it goes way back, that the sun, and here's your Trinity again, here's God's hand. This is what you see, the sun is the Trinity, okay? We have two Trinities going on here. We have the Trinity in the Orion Nebula, which is the sun behind the suns, which is the sun god, okay? And then we have our Trinity. And I believe what actually happens, and this you can see this in old alchemical drawings from Athanasius Kircher and other alchemists, is that there is a relay going on between the Orion Nebula and our sun, where it sends our sun cosmic rays, and then our sun in turn feeds us information from that area. Okay? And you'll find this kind of stuff all over history. So you're like, here we go, here's an example. This might be interpreted, and I think it means, when they say the hand of God right here, I believe this is actually the sun, the center of the Orion Nebula, where stars are born, possibly where our sun came from. This would be our sun, and then our sun in turn basically communicates with us. Right here you see another example of that. This is Athanasius Kircher. You can see the relay between the Orion Nebula and our sun, and then to us right here. These are more people looking at the sun. Notice that the fire, right? And if you go to the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus said, "Whoever is near me is near the fire, and whoever is far from me is far from the Father's kingdom." This is the Gospel of Thomas. And so right over here we see these people. This is from religious art. Here's the Holy Trinity, the sun again. This art goes all the way back down into the 1300s, 1400s. Look at all these people who are illuminated. You see all the little flames above their head? And this is the Trinity, it's the sun. And they're all staring at it. See, look. See how they stare at the sun? I don't believe this is about sun worship, because what we see here is we see Jesus said the Pharisees and scholars have taken the keys of knowledge, not keys of worship. They've taken the keys of knowledge and have hidden them. They've not entered, nor have they allowed those who want to enter to do so. And what you see here in the chair of St. Peter, this is in the chair of St. Peter in the Vatican. This is obviously the Orion Nebula. This has already been proven, but it's a sun. It's a Trinity. And the Trinity represents the sun. That's why you have the dove sitting in front of the sun. And it is the God light, the light that comes from the sun, or the energy that comes from the sun, because the sun is it is active, and in other words, it is positive, and we're negative as far as the poles go. And it charges us, is what happens. And I believe that this is what's being depicted here. You see the keys. The Pharisees and scholars have hidden the keys of knowledge, but they haven't hidden the keys of knowledge. It's actually right in front of our faces, if we just actually look. Here we see in the Bible, we'll just use the King James Bible, it says, "Truly the light is sweet, and a pleasant thing it is for the eyes to behold the sun." And right here, in God's Word translation, it says, "The light is sweet, and it is good for one's eyes to see